Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Daily American Podcast. My name is Prince Wright, and I'm so glad to have all of you here. We have a very special guest today, someone who has served our country in ways that we couldn't really imagine. Lindel Gregory doesn't just work in National Park Service. He spent nearly 3 decades living it. From starting out as a seasonal ranger here in the Ozark Riverways in the late 80s to fighting wildland fires and working law enforcement across multiple parks, Lindel built his career the long way, on the ground, in the elements, and in high-pressure moments. Since 2015, he's led operation as Lower Current District Ranger. By the way, as I'm reading this, he has retired. I just wanted to emphasize that. Overseeing law enforcement and emergency response out of Big Spring. Along the way, he trained rangers across the Midwest, led tactical teams, and even stepped in as chief ranger at Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument. That is an interesting name. Now, after 29 years of experience, he stepped into the role of chief ranger at Ozark National Riverways, where he would later retire. A Southeast Missouri native who grew up in these riverways, Lindel still calls this place home, living on a farm with his wife and 3 daughters who are doing great things in society. Today, we're talking about leadership, legacy, ways that we can help Poplar Bluff, and what it really means to protect America's wild place. Mr. Lindel, thanks for being here today, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Listen, when I had this thing written up, I thought it was going to be after the retirement. So he has retired, guys.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for being here, sir.
You betcha.
All right, so we'll jump right into it. Just kind of give us a little rundown of what you're doing right now. What is life like? Also, tell us a little bit about Gregory Security Management.
Okay. Well, so I spent 37 years in law enforcement and firefighting with the National Park Service, most of it. A little bit of time I spent with the Bureau of Land Management. But after that, long of a career and stuff like this, I've just kind of, I retired in January of 2026. I took a long vacation to New Zealand, Australia to kind of regroup my brain into being a retired person then. And then when I came back, I already knew I was going to do some wildland fire stuff. So I provide security for wildland fire teams and stuff like this. So a lot of these incident management teams will have security managers assigned to them. So what I do is I manage all the security for these large, almost impromptu cities that they build during these large wildland fires. So we'll have like up to 5,000 people in a camp. So I manage all the security for that, making sure that the right people are in there and things aren't getting stolen and people are secure and safe. So I manage that, and that's part of what my security company will probably end up doing. We'll maybe contract later on for some of these wildland fires, provide this. I want to step it up, and I want to start bringing another level of security. I think the wildland fire community, they're really good at fighting fires, but they don't really think so much about the security. But just this last year, we had a shooting out in Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where someone started a fire. When firefighters responded, he ambushed them and killed 2 of them. I think that fire organization in general don't think about that stuff. So I think they need people like me to come in and kind of start making that change to another higher level security for them.
Wow. It's one thing to see, and it's still horrible to see our first responders as far as law enforcement being killed in the line of duty.
Yes.
But it's a totally different thing to see firefighters killed in the line of duty. That's horrible. Now, I know that you're protecting them, you're protecting these kind of man-made cities. Are you also policing these cities in a sense, making sure that when the firefighters are off duty, they're not getting too rowdy? How does that work out?
So we do, it's very complicated as far as jurisdiction goes.
Gotcha.
So because a lot of times we're on private property that we're developing these cities. So we have some authority, but this is where you need someone that has a law enforcement background to basically connect with the local law enforcement to make sure they know what we're doing and we're all working together. So if I do need someone, local law enforcement come in, they have someone that can talk the language and understand constitutional law and things like this, probable cause. But a lot of times what we do is we handle those things administratively. Like if a firefighter comes there and they bring alcohol into camp and they cause a problem, we'll administratively demob them and send them home.
Yes,
so
sir.
we can do that kind of stuff. But that's where My job is to manage the security forces there to make sure we're handling those things appropriately.
Yes, sir. You talked about 9/11. Obviously, I'm someone that is going to law enforcement. People like you have really encouraged that.
Yes.
I know, like when it comes to these wildfires, right? You're having thousands of firefighters. I'm assuming they're coming from as far as not just Florida, overseas.
Oh,
right?
everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. When 9/11 happened, did only the surrounding agencies in that state and surrounding states respond, or did the world literally fly in?
Now, we continued the way that we always have. So we bring in people from all four corners of the United States, Canada, even Australia, New Zealand. We've brought firefighters in from all over the place. You know, it was a little more difficult after 9/11 because, you know, travel wasn't near as easy as it was prior to that. But they would work with state departments and things like this to help these other countries support us. And then we help those countries whenever they have a big fire season as well.
Have you done some work overseas?
I have not, no. But a lot of our firefighters do go into Canada, and they've gone to Australia and places like that to help them as well.
When it comes to the law enforcement side, I forgot. I think it's called a mutual aid agreement.
Yes.
I know they're like, I'm like whenever there was a school shooting, and we'll talk about those things.
Yep.
What does that look like for a scale of 9/11? The mutual aid agreement, not just firefighters, but law enforcement.
It's different, and it's a little more complicated. Fire is a little more simple than law enforcement, because law enforcement, you start getting into all the jurisdictional issues and stuff like this. Like, just because you're a law enforcement officer in the state of Missouri, you can't go to the state of Mississippi and do law enforcement.
Unless you're deputized.
Something like this. That's where federally it was a little bit easier. Like, we could be deputized by the U.S. Marshals, and then we can go anywhere in the country and basically have authority to do that.
So wait, so when you say federally that you guys, federal agents can be deputized, does this mean that just because I am an FBI agent or a border customs agent in Orlando, does that mean that I still need to be deputized if I'm on vacation in California and the shooting happens? So I don't have that authority there?
So you have the emergent situation that you can respond to if it's an emergency. But as far as going and doing law enforcement, like actually just going to make an arrest, if it's outside of your authority, like for me with the National Park Service, my authority is granted by geographic area within the National Park system. So if I was to go outside of that, and I would work and do something, I would need to be deputized by the U.S. Marshals, unless it was an emergency. If it was an emergency, a shooting, I'm covered under the Good Samaritan Act, stuff like this, to go ahead and respond and take action and do everything I need to. So there shouldn't be any delay in someone responding in an emergency like this, but to actually make an arrest for someone just doing something that was not threatening, I would need that authority.
Yes, sir. One last question before we get to the real questions here, because I mean, like you're so cool. In Florida, we have a lot of gators. So we have Florida Wildlife and Fishers, right? So these are the cool guys that one day they're in an F-150 truck and they're pulling a boat. The next day they're on four-wheelers or dirt bikes. Is the wildlife, the National Park Services, is it similar to Florida Wildlife, or is that different?
It's very similar. So I worked in the Everglades.
Oh, really?
So I know a lot about working with
gators and pythons, and now we have monkeys.
Florida Fish and Game and stuff like this. But, but the most National Park Service have our own. We have our own wildlife biologists. We have our own things, and which is kind of neat about the ranger job is that we get into all of it. Like, I end up trapping gators when I was in the Everglades to get them out of the dangerous gators, stuff like this. So I was doing all those same things that the wildlife biologists were, but I also carried a gun and did law enforcement and turned around and did the value the next day or something.
Right. Wow.
But we have all those same abilities and positions in the National Park Service that almost every state has. Gotcha.
Yeah, I knew when I was a kid I didn't want to join Florida Wildlife and Game because I was talking to one guy. And he's like, yeah, when he had about 5 guys at gunpoint with his AR-15. Yeah. And they were trafficking cocaine.
Right.
And for a local PD, your backup may come in 3 minutes. Well,
from
your experience, and I know from fighting a lot growing up, 3 minutes of fighting, when you're full on hand-to-hand combat, that feels like an hour.
Sure.
Well, when it takes hours for backup to come, and gators and pythons, I said, I'm going to stay out of that. So awesome. So you spent 17 years in the Midwest region, special event and tactical team, high angle rescue, swift water, tactical security. When you're living that life, your nervous system is tuned to 10. When you finally became chief ranger and traded the hardness the harness for a desk.
Yeah.
Did you feel safe, or did you feel like you were dying of boredom?
You know, it was really difficult to be, the go-to guy for 30 some odd years. Whenever something happened, they'd call me out and I would just go.
Yes.
So whenever I became the chief, it was difficult to not be the go-to guy and just call someone else to go do it. But it was also very rewarding because I felt like me in a leadership role, I knew exactly what they were going through.
Yes.
It wasn't like I was just telling them to go do something dangerous without me doing it myself before.
Yes.
And so many times I was just like, hey, I'll come with you. Like we had a huge tornado went through Van Buren. I was the first one with a saw. Let's go. I would get there and do the same thing with those guys.
Yes, sir.
But it was, I'm not in the same shape I was whenever I was 20 and, those kind of things. But it was difficult to not be that guy, but it was such a proud leadership time for me to see my team do so well and to me just call them and know they can do it well.
Yes.
And give them the training and the tools and the equipment that they need to go do it. And also the support.
Yes,
that's
sir.
a huge part of it is giving those rangers and those people out in the field the support they need to do their job.
What does your day-to-day look like as a chief for the national park?
So I tell everybody it was really a little depressing for me because for 30 years I'd get in my patrol vehicle at my home and I'd say, okay, which way do I want to go, north, south, east, or west?
Right.
And I would just decide to go do something.
Is that for the whole state, or is that just
for the park?
The park, which is in Butler County, or?
No, it's Carter, Shannon, Dent, and Texas counties.
Gotcha.
Where it's at.
Okay.
But whenever I came to chief, every day I knew where I was going. It was depressing. I knew I was going to an office. There were going to be fluorescent lights there. And I knew, so it was, for a while, it was kind of depressing for me.
Yes.
But I also knew that, what I was doing there was important for the guys out in the field doing their jobs.
Yes.
But yeah, my job was usually by the time I would get to the office, there was already a line started at my door, about questions or problems to deal with or just,
From
fires to put out.
officers?
No, from officers, from the other management team, from, everybody within the park that needed something. I mean, it was pretty much my email and my phone would just start ringing off the hook for most of the day.
Wow. Wow.
So there's always something to be doing. So that part of it, I liked because it wasn't exciting stuff, but it was still stuff that kept my brain busy and made me
Yes,
very
sir.
active in that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
And I was always trying to strategize too, like how can I make this program better? How can I step
Right,
it up? How
using
can
the
I
brain.
do something else? I'm always using my brain to try to look ahead.
Wow. I like that. Sounds like a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk. So how many, it's an inside joke, we were arguing about this yesterday. How many federal agents did you have under you within those 3 or 4 counties?
So because I supervised different elements, like I supervised like a fee program and a structural
fee?
fire fees, like
Fees.
collecting fees.
Yes, sir.
And then also the law enforcement emergency services stuff. So I had about 25 total people. But as far as law enforcement commission people, there are 14 in
Gotcha.
that park that I supervised.
And then I'm guessing local PD within those counties came to your aid when you needed them.
Yes, so we worked really close with most of the counties. Like we worked with them all the time. Like anytime they needed us, we'd go help them, they'd help us. So very good relationship with most of the counties.
You ever done a high-speed chase?
Do what?
It's like you're,
Yes.
yeah, you have?
Oh yeah.
Listen, if you're running from the cops and you see a park ranger get behind you, just pull over.
Yeah.
Just pull over. All right, so do you see a lot of young people going into this area of law enforcement today, or is it less than it was when you were coming in?
It's much less, and I was just talking about this earlier, is whenever I came in, so I started in 1988. And at that time, I mean, you just didn't walk into a permanent job. I mean, I worked 10 years as a temporary trying to get a permanent job, doing any job that they gave me. I mean, I tried to work, whatever it took to try to get a permanent job because it took that long to get in.
Jeez.
And now, people, and no one got hired from the outside. I mean, you didn't just walk in off the streets like, yeah, hey, I want to be a park ranger today. You just didn't do that. I mean, you had to work all those years to develop your reputation, stuff like this to get in. Well, now we're hiring people straight off the street. I mean, we have gotten to that point. I didn't think we would ever get there because we were kind of one of those places that everybody wanted to work for compared to maybe a local police department or a sheriff's department. we had a lot of people wanting to work for us.
Yes, sir.
But even now, we've got our recruitment numbers are down like they are with a lot of other agencies.
Wow. I hope that changes. So take me to the day-to-day of a special unit operator in the National Park Service, right? Most people think of Smokey the Bear.
Yep.
You guys looking for lost hikers, but you guys are trained for active threats. What's the mental tax you pay knowing that you're the last line of defense for a massive unfenced wilderness?
So it's very unique, and most people, whenever you talk about the National Park Service having tactical teams, they're like, why would you need that? Well, the National Park Service has tons of large events going on all the time. And this coming year is going to be probably a banner year. This is the 250th. So all of these big patriotic events, guess where they want to have them at? In a national park. So what does that require? That requires a lot of rangers to come there, and especially trained teams to help make those secure, because you're going to have thousands, if not millions, of people at these events.
Right.
You got to do that. So in the National Park Service, every one of basically the 9 regions have a team, usually 11-person team. Some of them have multiple teams, but usually have at least one team. Midwest region, we were scattered over 13 Midwestern states. So we're not a full-time team because we're rangers in our own parks, but then we're also part of this team. So we get together multiple times a year and we train on tactics, whether it's active threat response or things like this. And then we get deployed throughout the year. My team generally would go anywhere between 8 to 10 times a year. We would get deployed somewhere. Like we would work like the Sturgis Rally in South Dakota. We would work the Fair St. Louis up around the Arch. We would go to Mount Rushmore or something else, or we'd go to DC for an event.
And you're wearing tactical gear at these events?
Depends. So it all depends on the details. So sometimes we would go just to supplement the rangers that were there. They just needed other uniformed rangers to help them. Sometimes they were large protests that we would have to suit up in riot gear and stuff like this and do that part. Sometimes we'd be in tactical gear. Just depend on the deployment and the time that we need to go to.
Wow. Before I go to the next question, would you say that the parks are the borders within the border? When I say that, we do have a huge issue down at our border when it comes to Texas and all those areas, right? We're fighting mass immigration, right? Illegal immigration, which I think I think we're doing well right now. But anyway, I won't go too deep into that.
So that's interesting you say that, because that was also one of our regular details, is we would go to the border.
Okay.
So we would work with, so we have, if you ever look at the map of public land, we have a huge amount of public land along our border. So guess who guards that? It's the rangers.
Right.
So Oregon Pipe Cactus that you mentioned in there, we have 31 miles of international border there.
Wow.
So I work there. So those rangers there are constantly doing border operations and border situations. So we would go down there. I'd work with the Border Patrol, their BORTAC teams, their BORSTAR teams. We'd work directly with the Border Patrol, or we'd run our own operations. So we would do a lot of that as well, because public lands are all over, and the border was a threat to those public lands down there.
Was the border always an issue when you, as far as when you came into your career, or was there a moment where we really didn't need fences and we had great relationships with maybe the border or a national park, people from Mexico?
It's interesting that you say that, because I've watched the transition of the border. So I started in '88.
Yes, sir.
Very early on, probably later 90s, maybe mid 90s, I went to the border the first time. And I remember going down there, and at that time in Oregon Pipe, all they had was a barbed wire fence. And it was down most places. I mean, you could just drive right across the border anywhere you wanted to.
Right.
And we would, back then, the low tech is we would dig in hide sites. We would dig in a little trench, and we'd get down with our binoculars and our night vision, and we would watch, and we would literally watch thousands of people walking across the border every night. But, we were looking for the drug smugglers, stuff like this. So we would actually let a lot of these people just walk by while we were waiting for the drug smugglers, and we would go after them and try to arrest those. Because
the issue of the border now is not the people, it's the drug dealers that are coming through the border.
And it's just strange how so that's been going on forever.
Yes.
But I think 9/11 changed a lot of that. We're like,
Absolutely.
We can't be allowing thousands of people every night coming through there that we have no way of vetting them.
Right.
And at that time, it was it was very common that it was mostly just Mexican nationals, but now there's a lot of other, I've talked to my friends down there, I mean, they're catching people from Yemen, from different Middle Eastern states.
I have friends
so
on
they
the
have
border
people
down
that
there
are
also.
catching people from all these other
Yes,
countries coming because it was so porous they would come in anywhere. So
Well, absolutely. I'll say this one quick thing, and then I'll move to the next, because this goes into our next question.
Sure.
I was really concerned on the border when people coming through the border were in their early 30s, 20s, right? So these are able-bodied men who can pick up arms at any time.
Right.
One gentleman was from China, and when he was getting detained by customs, he said to them, "You don't know who we are now, but you will know who we are later." And that sent a spine up my a chill up my spine. I said, "This isn't just," because I have family and friends that came across the border,
Sure,
because they wanted to do it the right way, and they ended up, well, not say the right way, but they ended up becoming citizens, and they built companies and raised their families here. We're not getting that anymore. We're getting people coming across the border that has hidden motives. So, and we can talk about that more off the record. How does park rangers stop terroristic attacks, human trafficking, drug cartels, and parks without the world ever finding out? I know that you guys are I would say, the unsung heroes. We don't know what's going on.
right.
We don't know how many attacks have been stopped, but you can probably tell us about that.
And it's, and we did a lot of, we're a federal agency, so
Yes.
we work a lot with the FBI, and we had people that were part of their task forces and stuff like this.
Yes.
Especially what we'd call our icon parks that we consider were terrorist targets, like the Arch, Mount Rushmore, maybe Washington D.C., the Mall up
The
there.
Arch in St. Louis.
Those are considered icon parks that we, if someone was targeting some place to get a big bang for their buck kind of thing, those are the places they would target, or basically our symbols of democracy here that they look at that would be something big for them to do. And there's been several plans that have been caught.
Or to kind of stop.
Yes. At
Are
the
there
Arch.
any that you could tell us about that is probably now being declassified?
I think there was definitely a couple at the Arch. I wouldn't want to get into details on them, but there was
Yes, sir.
definitely some that during a lot of the Occupy protests and things like this up there, that they were planning to bring bombs in there and try to blow up a part of the Arch and stuff like this during some of the large events.
Gosh, man.
So there's a lot of that stuff that goes on behind the scenes that
we don't
no
know
one
about.
realizes.
And this is why the media, and I say this openly because we are in media, and what I love about the DAR is we have an upstanding reputation for putting out what needs to be put out.
Right.
And the media is not talking about this.
Right.
And I hate it because there are good people on both sides and
Yeah.
great law enforcement, and we don't know what you guys are doing. So thank you for that. That's
Yeah.
really amazing. So you officially retired in January of 26, correct?
Correct. Yep.
After 37 years of law enforcement, of always being on, how do you actually turn that off, right? When you're sitting on your farm or in Carter County, how do you relax?
It was, so the first, when I turned in my radio and my government phone and stuff like this, it was really a strange feeling because,
Right.
I'd left my radio on for all these years. So whether it's county or whoever, there's radio traffic going on my radio all the time, 24 hours a day.
Right.
And to actually have a night of quiet was very eerie for me.
Your
And then-
brain wasn't quiet.
Yeah, my brain wasn't quiet because I was still preparing to get up for whatever. And it was just
Right.
kind of a funny thing is just these last storms that came through.
Yes.
We were set at the house and, they were predicting tornadoes and stuff. And we're tracking the weather a little bit. And my youngest daughter comes it's like, Dad, how does it feel to know that you're not responsible for that anymore? I said, it feels pretty good because it's not my responsibility.
Right.
Or it's not my responsibility to send my guys out and make sure they come back safely and track them all night long when I send them out on something. It's someone else's. So it was really, it's hard, but it's also very relaxing to not be responsible for other people's lives.
Right.
And to send them out and be the one to do that.
Right. I think we have such great, not just law enforcement, but first responders in Southeast Missouri. Robbie Myers is one. He's the director of emergency management
Yes.
for Butler County. Chief JR and Sheriff Mr. Dobbs. And I actually was at the command center the other night, whenever the tornado thing was happening, and to be in that room and to see the care that they all put into it. They literally bring their families into the department. because they're like, we have to work. And to
Right.
see that was like, and that's why I want to go into law enforcement, because
Yeah.
when I cover these stories and I'm there on the front lines, I'm carrying a camera while they're carrying a gun.
Right.
I'm carrying the DAR badge while they're carrying, and I'm like, no, I got to go on that side now.
Yeah.
And so that's really amazing.
It is a type of, I guess, feeling and camaraderie
Yes.
that you don't get in any other professions.
Oh,
I mean, outside
absolutely.
of the emergency services,
Yes.
military, I don't think anyone else builds those kind of connections and relationships
Right.
with their coworkers like we do.
I'll tell you what, and this may be a little controversial. I've been in ministry now. I'm 28 years old. I've been preaching since I was 2 years old. Full-time ministry was about 10 years for about 10 years, and I can't find anybody in ministry who is as connected
Right.
like first responders and our men and women who are serving in our armed forces.
Right.
And so I think that's really amazing. And so let's talk about the fun stuff, okay? So, which is, for me, this has all been fun. But for the viewers, let's talk about the fun stuff, right?
Okay.
So you've stood in the inner circles protecting U.S. presidents, right? When you've
Yep.
been in that environment, the margin for error is zero. Does that level of pressure change your DNA, or is it something you have to be born with, like this coldness to handle that type of detail?
You know, I think it's one of those things that we definitely, and I've worked with a lot of the Secret Service advanced teams and their
Yes.
actual teams. So,
Yes.
and I laugh at it because, I mean, they are so dialed in and so serious when they're doing their pre-work and whenever they're actually the POTUS is on scene or something like this. Now, after it's over, we may all go out and have dinner and laugh and joke
Right.
and make fun of each
Right.
other and everything else. But during that time, you have to be
Yes.
dialed in and you have to be 100% into what you're doing.
Right.
And that's where I think that I mean, as soon as that POTUS catches that plane and flies out of there, there's a huge
Yeah,
sigh
right.
of relief. And then you know what?
Because
we have
yeah.
to get off. You cannot stay in that code red,
Right.
area all the time, or you'll just have a heart attack and blow
for
up or
sure,
something.
for sure.
So, but I think we all get to where we can manage it. Like I knew there was times, like I would tell, like this is a no BS time. Right now, when I say something, it just gets done. There's no questioning. There's no discussing
Right,
it. There's no
right.
time for me to worry about your hurt feelings. Just do what I tell you.
Correct.
Now, when we're done, we'll talk about it. You can tell me where I was wrong or something like this. But whenever I tell you it's serious and we're going to
As
do
long
something,
as the prince was on the
we
X.
do it.
Correct.
And that's where it's nice working with a team that you know well.
Right.
Because, I may yell at them or whatever, but their feelings are going to be hurt because they know later on we can talk about it and it's not
Yeah.
personal against them.
Yeah.
It's about the situation that we're handling at that time.
Absolutely. Let's dig into that just really quick, and before we move on, a lot of people have had their input with how they think the Secret Service has been doing in this administration.
Right.
One, I have a lot of respect for our law
Sure.
enforcement, and so if it's not coming from law enforcement, I can care less.
Right.
Because it's like there is a book by Green Beret, and I'll give you his name later. Mike something, whatever. He's now the UN ambassador for the U.S. But he says everyone will tell you how to do the job when they're not under pressure
Yes.
because they've never done it. We just had the devastating event at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yes.
In my opinion, they did amazing.
Sure.
They neutralized the threat. What is your opinion on that? Your opinion on Pennsylvania? Your opinion with, on all of that? How are they doing?
It's so hard. And I will be the first to tell you that I don't second guess them.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know what all they're dealing with. And no one does, other
No
than
one.
those on the team now.
Yes.
I'm hoping that they are, because I did. I mean, every time my team got done, we'd go back. It's like, all right, let's do an AAR here.
Yes.
Let's tear
What is
apart
AAR? What is that?
after action review.
Okay.
Let's go back and let's see everything that we made a mistake on. Maybe no one even saw it.
Right.
And sometimes my teams would get a little frustrated with me, like, why do you do that, boss? We did great. Everything worked out great. Everybody was safe. No one died.
Did it?
It was all good. I said, but was it perfect?
Yes.
No. So here, let's be honest about it and let's look where we made mistakes.
Yes.
Let's make sure we don't make those next time.
Yes.
And so there'll be a different mistake next time, but let's make sure we don't make that same mistake again.
Right.
And that's where I hope that the Secret Service is doing with theirs. I mean, I could be that guy that sits back and is like, man, well, This last one, like the guys ran down the hall, they fired 5 times and nobody got hit. How'd that happen? I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see what was going on. I don't know, what the situation was. I mean, the one Secret Service agent was shot in the chest and it looked like he still returned fire.
Correct.
So, I don't know. I mean, I am confident with the people that I worked with in the Secret Service over my years. They are very dialed in to the mistakes that have been made and how they need to correct those. And next time, I guarantee you, they will correct those next time.
Absolutely.
So that's
Yes.
where, but anybody that says they're perfect is the first one I want to see you actually go do that job.
Right. Shooting at a target that's not moving.
Yeah.
Shooting at a target that is not moving and a target that is moving.
Yeah.
Totally different things. I'm a good shot, but
and there's right now what I'm thinking about is, because I did this in my own brain. It's not just about drawing your weapon and sight picture and pulling the trigger. It's like,
Yes.
what's on the other side? Is somebody going to step out of that door? How many innocents do you have behind you? All those things have to
Crossfire.
be going through your mind
yes.
in the instant that you're pulling that weapon and you're getting ready to do that. So it's not as simple as people think it is. And I love all the pundits or whoever that want to give their advice about how they would do it. Like,
Right. And it's
Step
also
up.
knowing that the law can be against you. You have to know that when you pull that trigger,
yes,
it isn't just you're going to go home and go to sleep and forget about it.
No.
You're going to go through internal investigation, and there's lawyers that want to track you down. Are you prepared to face what's going to come after that bullet leaves the chamber?
any officer that has to use force, generally that is going to be the worst day of their life.
Absolutely.
Because they will have months and months of second guessing of people sitting behind desk, chief rangers or whoever, asking them questions about why did you do this?
Right.
And they're going to have to answer those for months, if not years, if not lawsuits and things like this. So anyone that thinks that someone does that frivolously
Yes.
and doesn't even think about it, they know what they're facing when they do that.
Wow. This is really good. So you were the field training lead for multiple states and worked with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. What is the one thing about the federal tactical world that would shock someone who thinks a park ranger's job is just checking fishing licenses?
I think they would be surprised. So our federal law enforcement training center is where almost all federal law enforcement go to train, with the exception of FBI, who have Quantico and a few others.
Yes.
But generally, everyone goes through the same federal law enforcement training center.
Yes.
National Park Service actually has one of the longest training programs in that academy. I mean, because inside the federal law enforcement, we are probably some of the few that actually have hands-on contacts all the time. Like
Yes,
if you
sir.
think about a DEA agent or FBI agent, they rarely ever go hands-on to arrest someone.
You don't want them to touch you.
But whenever they do come for someone, they have a whole team with them. We're
Right.
dealing with people on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
We're doing that kind of stuff. So I think that the Park Service has such a wide range of skills and training that they go through. That's why their academy is so long. And they're extremely well trained. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
most people look at that academy like, wow, you guys put them through a lot. Whereas the physical fitness standards or whatever, that we really do hold people at a high standard for that.
Yes, sir. How are we doing on time?
We're only at 35 minutes.
Very well. Do you think law enforcement officers are undertrained today, or that they need to do, or there needs to be more training?
I think there are some aspects that I think training is not where it should be. And that's where I guess I look at sometimes. But I also think that because I was such a big part of the field training program, that is where the rubber meets the road. And I used to have this conversation with new trainees when they would come in. So listen, you have been able to pass a written test. You've been able to pass something in a static environment. You've been able to pass something with role players. This is where the reality comes in.
Yes.
This is where it really happens. So honestly, I think field training probably needs to be longer, but it needs to be good field training.
Right.
I think that we need to pay, reward, encourage those very good field trainers. I think that's the part that really needs to be done correctly. I think
Yes.
that's the part that they shorten up. They'll pay for their academy. They'll give them the shortest field training they can get, and then they get them on the streets, and then they don't train them again.
I think in Florida, well, the academy I'm going to be joining at some point, the Orange County Sheriff's Office. It's a 6-month academy, almost like the state police here.
Yep.
After that academy, I think it's about 3 to 4 additional months of training,
Right.
including that 14-week of field training also.
Right. Yep.
So I don't know how it is here in Missouri.
But I think that they need to do a lot of continuing training.
Correct.
Where a lot of academies will get you out, get you on the street, and then that's it. I mean, they may do the bare minimum, but they need to be keeping people their sharp edge. And that's what I do when I do like a lot of active threat training. Like, you need to keep your mind constantly learning new things.
Yes. Before we change, so you stood next to leaders of the free world. Is there a specific tell or mindset that you've noticed in those individuals that separates them from the rest of us?
You know, I did a lot of, because 9/11, I traveled so much, so George W. Bush, I saw him a lot of those details.
Yes.
I was with him. And, you know, it was, he was much different in person than I think what you see on TV and stuff. I mean, he was very, very friendly, very personable, very, you know.
He was human.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, he's one of those guys you're like, I mean, I could sit down and, you know, just have dinner with this guy and just really have a great time talking to him.
Yes, sir.
So I think that there's a lot more of that, and it goes on both ways. Those that you really like or those that you really don't like. I think if you ever sit down with them, there's some you wouldn't like as much as you think you did, and some that you would probably like a lot better.
Right.
But in politics, there is no in between. It's either you got to hate them or you got to love them. I mean,
Right.
and that's one thing that I noticed. There was something that I liked, you know, about almost all of them that I met and that I was around.
For sure.
I really liked how they treated, and Secret Service, I worked with them a lot, so I'd ask them questions like, well, so how's it like, you know, working for so-and-so? They're like, you know what, I don't get into politics. All I can tell you is how they treat me.
Oh, yeah.
And that was important to them. You know, how well they respected them on their timelines and their protocols that they were trying to do. That's how they viewed presidents. It wasn't about their political stance, it was how well or how easy they made their job in Secret Service to protect them.
Absolutely. So it's one thing to protect the president, it's another thing to protect the community, right?
Yep.
You're taking that elite federal training and bringing it into the doors of local churches and I would say even public places in these firefighter man-made towns. So you recently told a room full of church leaders that emotions ruled the day for an active shooter. In your 37 years, have you found that evil is something you can actually predict, or is it a series of missed red flags that we were too polite to call out?
I think a little bit of both, but definitely I think we are afraid to call out these. So you went through my training, so I talk about all the.
You talk about hygiene. I mean, tell a person about your smell bad. What's going on?
All these things that you can look at that you should be spotting as
Right.
indicators of
Right.
someone that is going on the ragged edge and is going through things. And I think you're absolutely correct. I think we've been so afraid. We become such a polite society in some ways. Some ways we become such a rude society.
We say seeker friendly in church.
Yes. So
Yes.
I think that we're afraid to call it out like, hey, that person is just not acting right. I mean, they've said things that are really threatening, but they won't go tell someone that can actually do something about it. They'll talk about it later, like after something happens, they'll be on the news saying, well, I knew that guy was going to do that because he'd done this. But do those things ahead of time. I mean,
Right.
that's where I need them to do it is to come around. But we can definitely, I want to see us catch that stuff before it ever happens.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's where my training has always been. It's not about, you know, being the shooter and coming in there and saving the day whenever you got 15 people dead on the floor. I want to save the day before anyone dies on the floor.
Right. I think how I see it is the person, and I'll go into the next question about fantasy stage, before the person commits the act, in
Yes.
my mind, the person needs help. I feel bad for him.
Absolutely.
Once he commits the act, I'll take his life.
Yep.
Period. Point blank.
Yep.
Right? So you talk about the fantasy stage of a threat where someone is playing the event out in their head. If you could get inside of the mind of a person in that stage, is there a reset button we can hit, or the slide toward violence is inevitable once it starts?
No, I think there's definitely a trajectory that is going, and I think we can change that trajectory.
Right.
I mean, I had a minor in psychology, but I don't really use that. But in law enforcement, I think I use it all the time. It's kind of one of those things that I think I have such good faith and good mental health that I think once people get that thing, so they may be, all they hear are these negative things about how I'm going to go do this, but if someone can actually counsel them, talk to them, and talk them off of this, I think there's definitely a place to save them. I mean, just because you have murderous intent one day doesn't mean that you can never be cured from that. I think there is a way of doing that.
What about the people, because I know we talked about in the class, the guy that starts smelling a little bad, he stops working on his hygiene, he's more isolated. What about the guy, what about the pastor who maybe his wife just cheated on him and he's in the pulpit, you're thinking he's gonna preach, but he had that moment of snapping and from the stage takes the lives of his congregation. What about people that you never expect to do it? How do you address that?
There's always those chances of that. In my experience and the studies that I've done about active threats and people that have done stuff, that's rarely ever happened.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's always indicators of something. So you knew his wife had cheated on him or someone knew about that. So
Or vice versa.
Yeah, either way. So it's one of those things that they're like, man, he really took that hard. I mean, he made comments about how he didn't want to continue living. And I tell people, a lot of people will say, well, they're suicidal, they're not homicidal. It's a very thin line between thinking about taking your own life and taking someone else's.
Right.
So that's a very short leap. So just because someone is suicidal, don't think that they can't be homicidal very quickly.
Yes.
And that's where I think there's a lot of, and again, it's that politeness, like, oh, they weren't a threat to anyone else, they were just going to hurt themselves. Be careful, that's a very narrow leap between one to the other. So if someone is that distraught or that confused, it's not a hard leap for them to go on to the next step.
Yes, sir. So you've seen the movie 12 Strong.
Yes.
These were brave men
Absolutely.
who went in, and the women who weren't there, but they were behind the scenes, overseeing things, right? Who went in after 9/11. There's a scene where the tribal chief looks at the other newer young man, and he goes, I can tell a killer when I look in his eyes. Look at my eyes.
Okay.
Am I a killer?
I think with training, I think you're a nice guy, and that's not a bad thing. But I think it will take some training and some soul-crushing incidents before you can be. Before you can get to the point where you could do it if you had to. And there's a big difference between a killer for good and a killer for bad.
Do you think I have what it takes? It'll be willing to be a killer for good.
Absolutely.
Hoorah. All right. Hey, listen.
I do.
If it ended right here, I feel good. I feel good. Okay. Let's go into the next, because this leads into the next question. So you teach about the 30-second threat. You taught me, well, first off, if they have a baggy shirt on, most likely they have a gun. I caught myself yesterday. I was in a restaurant, and I'm looking around. I said, he has a baggy shirt. He has a gun. And then he taught me hands, I think it was.
Yep. Hand, waist, face.
Hand, waist, face. Can you tell the mother about that who's carrying her newborn baby in a restaurant? Even if she's not carrying, how can she be ready for that?
They kind of make a joke about it sometimes in our FLETC training. They call it Walmart killings. But it's basically you're constantly doing a threat assessment anywhere you go. So whenever we go to Walmart, when I'm walking down the aisle, going to get my toothpaste or whatever, I mean, I've done 25 threat assessments before I get to the toothpaste aisle.
Yes.
Every person that I've looked at their hand, and their waist and face, because I'm looking to see if they have anything in their hands, items, weapons or anything like this. Their waist, most people will store weapons along their waist.
Yes.
People that have their shirts untucked and stuff like this, doesn't mean they're all carrying weapons, but they can potentially hide them there. I can't clear that waist if it's all a baggy shirt, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then their face, and you probably heard me say, it's like you cannot hurt someone
without making that
grimace of that face. You can't shoot at the range without making that grimace of that face.
Right.
I don't know anybody that can do it without making that face. So you look at their face, and then because someone will have that very intent, serious, I'm going to go do something, and you can see it, you can read it, especially once you've done stuff for a long time.
Yes.
So I just tell people, be observant. I try to teach my daughters this as well. Don't just look at the floor or look at nothing. I mean, look at people's faces. Do that little quick 30-second threat assessment, and also look at their body language and their behaviors, what they're doing, those kind of things. So just be observant, because maybe if they are thinking about it and they see someone watching them looking, they're like, maybe I won't do it now, because they see me.
Because of what you've taught me and what I've learned over the years, I may go a bit over if that'll because okay. Man, we're gonna stay in touch for the rest of my life. Okay?
Sure, all right.
'Cause this is so cool, right? I find myself doing the hands, waist, face thing all the time. While also, like, I was in Walmart yesterday. I'm also, because right now, of course, I'm not carrying, but I'm looking for what can I use as a weapon.
Yes.
And number 3, if anyone is going to decide to become an active shooter or an active threat in any public place where I am and they're near me, I have this mindset. If I come at you quickly,
Yes.
either you have no time to react, it's going to startle you, but whatever it takes.
Because they're preparing for people to cower and run away from them.
Oh yeah, no,
They're
someone's
not preparing
leaving.
for someone to come at them.
Yeah, someone's not leaving today.
Right.
And God willing,
Yep.
it'll be you.
Right.
I have that mindset, right?
I got to give credit to the hand waist faces from a awesome firearm instructor friend of mine, John Hearn.
John Hearn.
Yes, who actually taught that. He does it in firearms training all the time, but he's awesome firearms instructor, and so he's the one that taught that to me, and I passed it on to others.
Really fast before I move on, because I have 1, 2,
Okay.
3 more questions, okay? And then your last 2. How do you deal with it when you're standing face to face? Because nowadays, kids are being more active with violence.
Yes.
If you're a cop, I'm going into law enforcement. What advice would you have for me or any law enforcement officials watching if they come up face to face to a 13-year-old kid who has a gun, pointing it at them?
Yeah. You cannot underestimate any possible person. I mean, and whether it's an elderly, a child, whatever, and and we've learned a lot of this from our military from 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes.
I mean, and so a lot of that training has come over into law enforcement about
Yes.
do not underestimate any of those threats. They can kill you just as dead as a 25-year-old,
Yes, sir.
somebody else. So
Take a
you
shot.
cannot underestimate them. Yes,
Yes,
you
sir.
have to stop that threat.
If you're sitting in a church pew or a restaurant, what is the very first thing your eyes lock when a stranger walks through the door? Hands, waist, face.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So I always do that. I also I look for their behaviors.
Okay.
So if they're doing target scanning or anything like this, I mean their face is looking around. That's a watch out for me. That's a something that's suspect.
Yes, sir. 37 years of law enforcement. What is the one truth about human nature that you only learned by being a cop in the wilderness?
I think I was really surprised how much people lie. I finally got to
Do
the
they
point.
know they're lying sometimes?
Yeah, I think they do. I think, and as a law enforcement officer, it gets to the point that I can no longer believe anything people tell me.
Absolutely.
And I hate that because I think I came from a farming community where honesty, truth, handshakes,
Your word was your
deals,
bond.
that was your bond.
Absolutely.
So if someone told me something, I believed it. So going into law enforcement, I've lost all of that. I don't believe anything someone tells me
Yes.
as being the truth.
Yes.
And that's terrible. I think it's changed my personality because of that. But you
Right.
can't believe them. I mean, people will lie to you about anything.
You'll be surprised. I learned that in ministry. You're teaching active threat awareness now. Is there a way? Is this your way of staying in the fight, or do you feel a genuine moral obligation to pass on this tactical DNA to the local community before it's lost?
I do. I mean, there are a lot of people that can teach this stuff.
Yes.
I want to, if I can be of service, I want to be able to help people with this. I think I have a lot of the background experience to do this. I would love to help someone else be able to start teaching it themselves and multiply that.
Yes.
But it's just one of those things that, I'm not ready for a rocking chair. I want to
Right.
still be active and do stuff. And if there's something that I can pass along to people and help them, I'm happy to do that.
Yes, sir. Well, if you stay rocking, you won't be sitting down rocking.
That's right.
Here's the last 2 questions about Poplar Bluff, and I'll say Butler County. What are the biggest struggles facing Poplar Bluff and Butler County as a whole, in your opinion?
I think part of it is I really wish there was more for young people to do.
Say that again, please.
Good, healthy activities, a bowling alley, something for young people to go do that's healthy, wholesome, something like this. I just wish there was more of that for them to do. There just doesn't seem like there's much of that.
There really isn't.
And I grew up, I went to school in Neelville. All my family, I'm a family with 6 kids. They all live in Poplar Bluff. So they're raising their kids here. And I hear the same thing all the time. Like there's just nothing for, and it's such an important time. Whenever they start becoming young teens and, teenagers and stuff like this, you need to have something good for them to go do.
Correct. Because if you don't have anything good for them to do, they're going to find something bad to do.
Absolutely.
Right? Keep them busy so they come home, they want to eat and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Does local law enforcement here have something called Explorers Program?
They did it one time. I don't know if
It's
they do
big
or
in
not.
Florida.
Yeah.
You know, I know there's
is.
always a battle of trying to get people to come here. Okay.
Yep.
Last question. What are what are you most hopeful for about Poplar Bluff and Butler County?
You know, so
And
my,
also your county also.
yeah.
'cause
So
you
my
live in-
my family is all here. I really want to see, more industry coming. I want to see good paying jobs. I want to see people
Yes,
be able to
yes.
come here, make a living. Promote up into companies, settle in here. My 3 daughters. I mean, I would love for them to all decide to live here their whole life, but they got to have opportunities.
Correct.
And jobs and stuff like
Correct.
this to do. So I think we have to always be looking to better our community, bringing in industry, bringing in businesses, being that welcoming place for
Better
people to come.
security.
Yep. So it needs to be secure. It needs to be where if you send your wife or your kids to go shopping, they're not worried about getting their car broke into or getting robbed or something like this. I mean, you have to have a secure, nice place to do. And I'll tell you another thing, I really wish that we would actually spruce up the town a little bit.
Yeah.
Do a little of the landscape. I mean, do a little bit of stuff that just makes it when you drive down the streets like, boy, this is a nice town. I mean, if I was the first time I came into this town, I wanted to say, what's really nice? I just went to a little town recently and I told people, like, you have a really nice town. I mean, it just looked nice. I want Poplar Bluff to be that way as well.
Right. We'll talk more off the record.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So there you heard it. We had the amazing Lindel Gregory, a career law enforcement, federal agent, a father of 3, a husband of 1. Man, today catch that. Lindel has spent a lifetime protecting land and people on it, from the halls of power to the banks of the current river. He has seen the full spectrum of the human experience. Thank you for giving this blueprint.
Betcha.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Daily American Podcast, and we'll see you back here again next week. God bless you.